Hey there. Okay, I know people have heard this before, but when I had moved into rentals in Hawaii, for sure I noticed everything seemed okay. You move in, you get the key, and then all of a sudden the door worked fine. Everything, the Acadia door, I call it, screen door. All of a sudden I couldn't shut the door, and there was this gap like that. And the lights would go out when I tried to go upstairs, this and that, all kinds of stuff was happening. I call it the shim. It looks like the Eiffel Tower, I guess you could say. And this is happening in your life too. It's a frequency in there. And I want to talk about loans, the predatory lenders, things like that. People already understand what happened to me. People that are new to me don't know about the predatory lenders. They don't tell you how you can pay things off early. And I don't mean make extra payments. Think of credit cards. What do they say all the time? Pay it off, no interest charge. Pay it off, no interest charge, right? So people charge stuff and pay it off that month, and they don't have interest charged on it. These people think they're above the law. They don't do the same, do they, on home loans and student loans and government loans and car loans? They're liars too. You'll call them flat out. And they'll just say make extra payments. This is your payoff with all that interest. They're liars. They're just flat out lying to you. People understand how you have to do it, but some of these people are so ruthless, you can't make any sense with them. Any good attorney knows this too. You have to defend what's right, not the law. Public defender. People that are good attorneys understand this. And when you think about the food chain and how we are, you think about a dog, right? 7 years to 1 human years. And for instance, my dog's turning 7 this year. He was born on my birthday. And so that means he's how old? 7 times whatever, 7. So all of these things that we are, from the sea creature to this to that, the octopus lives 9 months. Our life cycle is 9 months. That's flat out our placenta. I've seen the placenta. It looks just like an octopus. And so people are hunting and fishing and killing us in the sea and on land as the animal. There's a guy running for governor of California. He didn't grow up here, and it was really disconcerting to hear him talk because of the things he said, including how he got his property. Bianco, I think his name is. He was given it by the federal government, and he wants to make it a training center and this and that. He rides horses, and these horses hate him. They think they're in the dark ages. They think they're going to be man on the street with horses. Do you think horses want to be around us like that, and cars and things like that? He also cut down the bullet train, saying this train to nowhere. Do you understand how Europe operates, how a lot of people walk and they take public transportation? It's really nice. And you don't have these cars on the road and these disgusting freeways and traffic lights and things like that. So you got to watch out for this guy. He's a dangerous person. Take the high road as much as possible. Help people out. Help yourself out. Help your family out. Don't donate to me. I'm not getting my donations. So I say donate to yourselves. Open up your own command center with God and the light. No violence, no fighting. When you look at reality TV and the judges and CPS employees, they're all the same people. They're in the food chain, and they're really dangerous people, and they're taking our kids left and right and blaming it on the parent. And once this guy too, he was being interviewed today. I saw it today, and he was just like, well, they're all drug addicts. They just blanket statement everything. And meanwhile, he's abusing animals on his property, including his horses, and doing horrible things, and using guns and ammunition and things like that. He's not a good dude. And these people are all the same way. They run the DMV offices, just like that. The guy that was interviewing me actually said, well, why it should be free. If they want state IDs, they want us to have state IDs, this should be free. And I agree. I've said this before. You guys are the one implementing these rules, making money off us, and making us go get our car registration and DMV and our licenses and things like that. You're just making money off us, and it's sickening what you're doing. You're requiring this. You should make it free. A while ago, you know, we were looking at a video, my ex-spouse and I, about don't talk to police. And it has good information in there, but you got to use common sense too. You can be courteous, but you don't have to give them any information. And they'll flat out tell you that too, the attorneys and the people that are being taught in law school, and what your rights are and so on. So people are like, why did you say that? Well, I'm telling you why now. I was living at Capulina Beach Homes, and it's a military installment, but they rented out these apartment homes to civilians. And one day I was in my home, and I had something sprayed on me through the vent, and I couldn't breathe. I almost died, and I had to cover my mouth and run outside, and I'd run back in because there were other people in the house in the back room. And I ran outside, and it finally stopped. And this is actually happening to kids in CPS. This is happening to military people on planes and so on. And it's the food chain, it's our defense mechanisms, things like that. But it evokes like real humans doing this, including chemtrails. You know, I organized screenings on Maui for what in the world are they spraying, and it talks about chemtrails. I was a flight attendant. I know what a contrail is, and chemtrails are very different. It's what you see in the sky. I saw a plane spraying a couple days ago, and they use it to control the weather and things like that. So you can watch those films. The director of that movie got hurt and taken down. If you get on assistance as far as benefits like Social Security or even food stamps, you can get a free phone. They're the station there at the county offices, and you go to that little desk outside and you say, I want to get a free phone now. And they'll give you a free phone, and they say make one call a month, and then it's still active. So don't be afraid to get your free phones and stuff, even as a backup, if you're still paying a phone plan. The phones are dark, so they're hard to watch things on, but they still serve a purpose, and we appreciate that. It really is evolution meeting God for the first time, because when you're asleep, you're unevolved, and we're fighting former versions of ourselves, unfortunately, when we wake up, and it's the astral plane. But before, it was subliminal on us. You don't realize how it's making you feel when you look in the mirror and they're staring at you going, you're fat, you know, you're ugly, you need your teeth straightened, you need this, you need plastic surgery, you need Botox. So when you wake up, it's the astral plane, and you have a lot of dialoguing in you now, and you're open to the universe, and you really see how the inner workings of the universe works. It's not friendly right now because of we're not grounded. Electricians understand this. It's a very easy concept when you're not grounded. There's a show you can watch free on YouTube called The Book of Enoch. It's not the movie with that one black actor. I forget his name. It's that one. I hated it. And the voice sucks on this one, but you really see the gods and how they're depicted and how they look. And just remember, we're starlight having experience. So we've adapted and adopted. A good example is we used to perm our hair when we were young. It was real popular. Even Burt Reynolds got a perm. And my hair is curly now. It's completely curly. You know, I used to perm it when I was young. So that's an example of how we've adapted and adopted. It's like, oh, you guess you like curly hair. This is how it's going to be, you know. You know, I started working at 16. It was the best thing I could have done. I couldn't wait to get out of school. I hated it. I hated it with a passion. And I started working at 16, cafeteria in Mesa I was working at, and then I got asked by some guys, blue worker callers that came in, and they asked me to be a secretary at their company. But unfortunately, the owner wanted to put me in an apartment, and I'm like, I have an apartment, you know. And the men were all hitting on me and so on and so forth. And I quit that job and went on to just keep working though at other jobs. You know, I didn't stop working. So get out there and work, especially if you're young. Quit school, get a job, get ahead in life. It's terrible though, you know, when you try to get jobs, you'll see how crazy it is with the online applications and all the accounts you have to build just for one company. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. So it's really frustrating for people that didn't grow up with cell phones or computers. They're just left out in the dust, man. Just like Ford won't work on my car. It's a 2004. They refuse to work on my car. The servicemen are okay. They're like, come here, we'll order the parts, make sure you have exactly what you need. But you know what? When you go places, they don't want to use these parts. They want to use what they use, and so on. They don't want you bringing parts unless it's a company that does that. But rarely do they allow that. You know, they force you to, you know, you think you had to go to school your whole life and do this and that. Why don't you provide uniforms for people so they're not keeping up with the Jones, having to buy all this, spend all this money on all these clothes that they shouldn't really be wearing at school and so on. You provide uniforms, or have a uniform of a shirt and khaki pants or something, you know, things that they can move around and easy and so on. I really feel you need to provide that. If you're requesting that they attend these schools, then you need to have uniforms for them for good reasons. There's good people in the county offices really trying to help people with benefits and so on as they are. The money's there, and they do want people to not work at these companies that are hurting animals, hurting others. All they do is talk about themselves when you walk in there. These places are going to be shut down and taken over by the gods. When we were first starting out in our company, I have a podcast about it. People can see it on their computer. I got banned on Vimeo. It was too controversial, they say. But the reporters, we were doing a casting company, and we were not an agent, and we were providing headshots, and it was a right to work state, so we'd give them a list of places that we're going to film or this and that, helping them get out there on their own way, but with our help. And we even had the general manager of Channel 5 in Phoenix, came in, Linda, and I got work on set. And we used to put their headshots on our wall, and they'd autograph it. And the news crew actually called me one day, and they're like, "Hi, this is Laura Garcia with Channel 5 News, and I'm just curious what you do there and this and that." And I'm like, "Oh, great," you know. Kind of told her, and she goes, "Oh, well, we've had 2 people complain about your company, and I want to see if we can do an in-face interview with you on camera." And I'm like, "No." And so I started, we had fax machines back then, so I faxed them documentation of Linda North, who got work with us, and she was the wife of the general manager of the same news station. And Patrick North, I think was his name. Anyway, so I said, "Okay, come on down." I finally agreed. They kept bugging me. They're being real assholes. And they're like, "Well, we're just going to go ahead and put this on air then." And I said, "No, come on, why don't you come on down?" And so that day, I had my employee with a video camera in the office, and I had in my waiting room people that got work with us hanging out waiting to talk to them too. They were so mad when they showed up. It was Laura Garcia and her brother, Gilbert. They were so mad. And they wouldn't talk to anybody. And when they got in the office and saw the camera, they were really upset. They're like, "We didn't agree to this." I go, "We didn't agree to any of this." She's like, "We had a contract." I go, "We don't have a contract." We just stood there, and we were aghast. They left. And they aired a mock piece of us and got these photos of my spouse and I. And I was really upset. I was very upset because I knew I was doing the right thing. You know, my goal was to get people work and have them be a part of the movie industry and commercials, things like that. That's why I hate reporters. I hate them. They're the stupidest people on the planet right now. And they say the stupidest stuff online. And especially the voters, voters, voters. All they care about is winning, winning, winning. They're just a bunch of athletes. That's all they are, and they're stupid athletes that got hurt in the food chain, and they act like it. And they don't care about you one bit, not one bit. I mean, Donald Trump can't even, be in office for 4 months without... Are you going to run for a third term? Are you going to run for a third term? Are you going to run for a third term? Like I said in one of my last video uploads, no, he's not, because we're all going to be president of the United States, and you're going to be the ambassador of Europe or whatever you guys call yourselves, okay? It is frustrating when you hear they give rights to veterans and things like that, when civilians get hurt in homes too, and they're being treated horribly in their homes and so on by doctors and people that act like they have their back, but they don't. You can watch every movie out there, and it's all ads for doctors. That's all it is. It's ad for doctors and disgusting stories of how the guy's wife died and this and that. You should improve each other, not disprove each other. And we're sick of your recipes. It's a recipe. They follow a recipe out of a genre, and they all jump on board, and they do the same stupid stuff online in movies, and they're disgusting. And all the programs online are disgusting. All your crime investigation programs are disgusting. Remember, you're the divine healer. Break up with your doctors right away. It's the only way you can heal yourself. Go vegan. Seek it out. Plant-based eating. You don't eat, and you don't kill. You're a Gentile. God's a Gentile. He really is. So is Mother God. When I was on Maui, I don't know how I heard about it, but someone told me, Patrice, you can get your fuel a lot cheaper if you go into Kahului. There's a place. Because the fuel prices are crazy here in California. It's almost $5 for a gallon of gas, and then you can go down the road. It's like $4.19, and because they have to carry the gas up the hill or wherever and drop it off at these places. You can go close to the docks or wherever you are, close to the places where they bring in the fuel. And they have a gas station, and you have to apply. You do a little application process, and you pay wholesale rates, basically. And they teach you how to use the fire extinguishers. They teach you how to shut down the pumps if there's a problem. And just know, for your company trucks, things like that, you can get your fuel cheaper than going to these gas stations here. Same with the landfills. You can do your own dumping, your own waste, and you can go and on Maui is $5, and just know when you have meat in your garbage, you're going to get maggots. Another reason to go plant-based as much as possible. You can go to a landfill here. I looked it up in California. It's $15 on up to $41 for a big load, or a truck with a trailer, but $15 for a car. Because when you actually look at the rates for having your recycle bin and this bin, you're paying probably $80 a month. So that can save you money to go to the landfills. And they have big recycling bins too. You don't make money on it, but you can recycle all your glass and your plastic right there at the landfill. So then these places aren't carrying it down to the landfill type of thing. So those are good. That's good information for people. Just take the high road as much as possible, and just know, I recently had to go to a CPS office. It was the most horrific thing I've ever seen with the employees. They were the most unhealthiest people I've ever seen in my life. Unhealthy. And then they're role models. They're supposed to be role models to our kids that they're taking and things like that. It's really disgusting what's going on with CPS. It really is. And these kids are getting hurt and raped in these homes, and made to be with very unhealthy people that don't understand. They're in the food chain, and they're not with God. They say they are, but they're not. They're not at all. I don't think these women should be in these positions at all. I'm definitely for women not serving the military either. I'm really against that. The women's rights movement is a big joke. And, everybody unfortunately had to wear the pants in their family as a female. I've seen that again and again with my family, with other family members, with people, the reporters, their voice. Hello, this is Joe. You sound like a dude. So, including that same thing, they blackmail you, those rating companies where you look up your reviews. And this one rating company that's really popular, I can't think of the name right now. It's the one that's out there still. They blackmail businesses, and they'll hide your good reviews, and then they'll call you. We were getting calls from this asshole from New York. Hi, this is Joe Schmo with that company, and we can help you with reviews. They wanted like $400 from us to pay them to not filter our reviews. They used to have this unfiltered reviews link. Yelp. It was Yelp. And I mean, they were charging businesses, that bought into that $1,000, and so on. People have committed suicide over this stuff by demeaning their companies and so on. So they're not good people. There's a movie you can watch once again called They're Alive, or I think They're Alive, and it's about a guy that finds sunglasses. It looks like Armageddon, and it's in LA. It takes place in LA, and he finds sunglasses in the basement of a church, and when he puts them on, it was like control, lies. All the magazines, everything coming at him was saying this, and people were looking like monsters, and things like that. And they had to go and pull a plug at the news station and stop this frequency that was coming in at us. So check that out when you can. There's good people doing energy work, bringing in our starlight behind the scenes. And when you're awake, unfortunately, you have a lot of, they call it tricks. The sun, once again, is how you're perceived. The moon is how you really are. And just know you're not as big as you think you are. It's the frequency in you that's doing this to you. Same with there's not as many people. We're unfortunately encountering clones, this, that. I went to a park in Nevada, and I was looking at the ducks, and I go, that duck's not eating. It's just acting like it's eating. There's humans walking around doing the same thing. So, I'm going to wrap this up because it takes a long time to upload, and I want you to be safe. Your goal is to not get hurt. Don't fight. Use your words. If you need to learn how to cuss, it can save your life. Don't be afraid to use harsh words to get someone out of your house, and don't be afraid to call law enforcement. They are responding to calls slowly. They're prioritizing. So we need good people to bring in the light and help people understand how the money system works and things like that, and get out of this predatory lenders, their scams. I heard Kelly Lovett, or whatever her name is, talk about, well, they need to pay the loans off, but nothing about the predatory lenders. They're even like, why couldn't we pay you off early? They're saying we need to pay the loan, and we're China. Why can't we pay you down early and give you a chunk of money and then still make our payments, and then we're not paying interest on that? That's basically what you do with a home loan. You have to get on their ass too. You call them and you say, I want to make an extra payment. You need to put down, maybe an extra $1,000 you have towards your principal. You're not paying interest on that. You're still making your house payment. We paid off our house in 5 years by doing that. My ex-spouse started going to real estate school and learned amateurization. There's actually a special calculator you can get. So there's a lot of weird things going on since I unclocked, including people wanting to make my movie but not coming to me directly, and they lie about that all the time. And they did actually treatments and had actual actors film my scenes. And my clothes that were auctioned off on Maui, we had storage, and it was during COVID, and we'd been paying for 3 years. And I said, I need a little break. Can you give me a couple months to get ahead, and we'll keep paying you? Nope. My items were auctioned off on December 4th, 2024, and that's so they could use the clothes and the footage for the movie that they keep trying to make without me. And they're like, well, you were a casting director. You should be happy. We want to make your movie. I realized what a joke that was, that you're making money off our lives again and again. And these actors are completely enslaved in the industry. They were asking me to consider being the Maui Film Commissioner. They were looking at me strongly for that. And I thought, that's all I need to commute into Kahului from Haiku and be away from my spouse and so on. And at the time, Mayor Alan Arakawa was in charge, and I saw it look like a boys' club to me when I went into his office. I just like good old boys. Can you imagine me being on a helicopter having to go to Molokai or this and that and so on and so forth? And yeah, I probably would have been murdered. And I know one day after I unclocked, I was in the parking lot, and I met him through friends. They lived down below. He was a doctor. They were both doctors. She was an educator on Maui, and he was a doctor at Kaiser. And we met the Arakawa and his wife, and I was in the parking lot a few years later after I unclocked, and I saw him, and I go, way to go, way to go. For some reason, I was yelling at him. I didn't like him. And the downloader, he's a cheater, he's this, that, does, really unscrupulous stuff. He was a Japanese man, I guess. And one day I had to call the cops to my home in Makawao, and it looked just like him, a clone of him. His son showed up. And I ended up making him leave because he was so horrible when he answered my call. You can cancel the police if they show up and this and that. Just say, I cancel you. You're a creep. Get out of my house. I'm very respectful, though. You have to have common sense. Law enforcement, they like me. To get that straight, they like me. So do the cartels, because I understand what's going on with the food chain. The quicker you can go vegan and start growing vegetables and things like that, the better. Those are cash crops from cacao. And just know fruit is the original sweetener. And it does affect you, all this crap you're eating. It does. It does. So I want everybody to be safe out there, and you're better off being celibate and quit trying to matchmake your kids all day and this and that. We have gay men in us all day long. They're constantly like, oh, he's cute. Oh, look at him. I hear the dialogue constantly, and it's disgusting. Including someone I'm with, they're always like, look at her tits, Like, we can't see that. If you know someone on SSI, they do have a program called In-Home Support Service, and a lot of people are abusing this, unfortunately, and hurting the In-Home Support Service so they can get extra money. But if you know somebody on SSI and you truly are helping them and taking care of them, you probably have to be over 18. You can call them and say, I need to be in In-Home Support Service because I am helping this person out that's on SSI, and I'm not working right now because that's what I'm doing. It's your job. You're helping them, and they want help, and they need it. So don't be afraid to look into these things, okay? All right, peace out.